Hi, and welcome to your Inside Power. My name is Patricia Stepler, and I'm going to guide you today with this question. Are you inspired? I heard Sandy Gallagher say this quote many times. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. And isn't that really true? When we start to break that down, it's not who you are that holds you back. We know who we are. It's who we think we can't become, or that we're not that person. And this is why so often when you work with a coach or you work with a mentor, they see things in you that you don't see in yourself because you don't think that's part of who you are. And if we could start to see the possibilities that we have inside of us, we can start to really change our lives. So my question was, are you inspired? You see, when we set a goal or when we have something that we want, we generally have one of three ways we set goals. And I know for myself, for years, I followed the first one. I set a goal I knew I could achieve because that's easy. Anybody can do that. Anybody can set a goal that they know how to achieve. And this is the problem in many workplaces. They have employees set goals, but they don't have them set a goal that inspires them. They have them set a goal that's tied to their performance evaluation. So naturally, a person will set a goal they know they can achieve. Or maybe they'll set the second kind of goal where they know if this happens and this happens, then you'll achieve it, which is just a little bit harder maybe than the first way. Sometimes I would set goals like that. Maybe it was a bit beyond my reach, but I knew that things were coming down the road that would probably help me to achieve it. So then you set that second type of goal. So we have A type of goal, the one we know how to achieve, B type of goal, which is the kind that if this happens and that happens, then we'll achieve them. But there's no inspiration in that. There's no excitement. There's no wondering how to do it. You pretty much have a good idea. The first one, since you know how to do it, and the second one, you've got a really good idea of how it's going to happen. There's nothing exciting about that. But the third type of goal, the one that you really want, that's our C type of goal. And that C type of goal, they're the ones that inspire us because we have to become somebody we're not. So if we look at that quote, it's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. You have to become that person that you think you're not in order to achieve that goal. So we have to get through that idea that it's not possible. And we have to start looking at how it can be possible. And so we have to suspend the disbelief of the impossibility and start to embrace the possible. Well, how do you do that? Well, you start thinking thoughts differently. You start to say that it is going to happen. You start to think of how it can happen. You start to think of who you need to be in order to make it happen instead of the other way around. Bob Proctor used to say this, and I think this was actually from Earl Nightingale, but he said, people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely from birth to death. And when their heart stops beating, it's mere formality. Now, we don't want a mere formality. We don't want you to tiptoe through life. We want you to take inspired action. So sometimes you have to be careful because that can actually get you in trouble. You take inspired action, then you bite off more than you can chew, or you spend money doing something and it's not quite the right thing. And so that can get you into trouble also. So we do have to be a little bit careful, but we also have to realize, and I talked about this last week about our paradigms, our habitual habits. Our habits do make things logical for us, but we have to remember that those habits are also holding us back. So think about your goal setting habits. If you've always set a goal that you know you can achieve, that becomes a habit. And when you set that kind of goal, there's no inspiration, but you know you can achieve it. So when you reach that goal, you say, oh yeah, I reached the goal, but there's no excitement there and you have not changed. And then you just go about setting new goals. You see, the whole idea of a goal is not for what you acquire. It's who you become, the transformation in you. And isn't that what we're looking for? The transformation. We want to become somebody we're not, or at least that we don't think we are. And so we start to set a goal so that we can become somebody different and we grow. When you go through a difficult time, when you have something that doesn't go well and things start to fall apart, then you have two choices. You can either allow yourself to fall down with that, or you can figure it out and become somebody different. When I went through a very difficult time when I was working on a project that's absolutely inspired me, it was so exciting. And it was a goal that was so far out there, we didn't know how to achieve it at work. And for a lot of the time, it was just a very small group of us that was really striving towards that goal. And because of that, the rest of our staff didn't want to come along with us. And there was a lot of resentment there. And anyhow, when things started crushing down upon me, because I was the one trying to lead the charge, it became very difficult. And for a while, it was like, okay, I'm just going to allow myself to just fall down in that kind of a depression or kind of, drifting back and, feeling bad about myself, or take the opposite approach and figure out why that was happening and change who I was. And when I changed who I was and how I interacted with people, it changed everything. And even though it was a very difficult time for me to go through and very painful, I would go through it again in a heartbeat because of who I became. You see, it goes back to that quote. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. I didn't think I could lead a team. I didn't think I could be that person I needed to be. And so that's why I fell into this, oh, woe is me feeling. When I decided, okay, this is worth the fight. And see, you have to have a goal that's worth the fight, right? Because if it's not worth the fight, you'll give up. So it has to be something that inspires you so much. And when that happens, then you're willing and you're able to make the changes you need to make in order to accomplish that goal. So that's what you need to do. A huge switch when you go beyond what feels impossible and you love it and it inspires you. And then your world begins to expand. And not only do you become somebody different, but you begin to see the opportunities that before you walked right by. We walk by opportunities every single day. And in today's world, it's really easy because opportunities come into our email, right? Or they come into our social media. And so we can walk by opportunities every single day. If we're not careful, we'll miss out on the very ones that we really need or want. So we need to make sure that even though we're making these changes, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And you have to embrace how uncomfortable it is. Certainly when I was going through this difficult time at work, it was very uncomfortable. It did not feel good. There was nothing about it that felt good. And when I decided to embrace the discomfort, then I could change. As long as I kind of delved into the discomfort and kind of wallowed in my sorrows, so to speak, then I was just there. But once I decided to take it on, then the changes happened. Now, I want you to listen to this. It says, the universe opens for the person who knows what they want. What is it you want? And I talked about that a bit in the last session. So if you missed that, you might want to go back and listen to it. But what is it you want? Here's this quote. It says, it does not matter how hard you work or how many hours you put in. If the paradigm or our habitual habits does not change, ultimately the results will remain the same from one year to the next. Is that not what happens to most people? Their results don't change because they don't change. You have to change something in order to change your results. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you will continue to get the same results. You must open your mind to allow something different to come in. And you start to have to view yourself and your situation from a different point of view. And I talked about that in the last session, about perceiving things differently, because when your perception changes, then you will change. So we have to start looking at things differently, and you have to get to know who you are and what is it you want. Most people don't know that. Or, like that quote, what's holding you back is who you think you're not. And we don't see ourselves in that way. And if we could just see ourselves in that way, then we could become that person. That's all you have to do. You have to start seeing yourself doing the things that you fear to do. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. You have to start seeing yourself doing those very things that you think you can't do. See yourself in those conversations with those people that you think you can't have. And that's what's going to make the difference. You see, the same energy that flows to somebody else is also flowing to you. And you can grab hold of that energy and take it for yourself. Or you can just ignore that energy and let it pass right through you. But it is there. But what you have to do is start to look and open your mind and your eyes to the realization that there's a bigger world out there. There's a bigger world that you can be part of. And you have to start seeing yourself differently and building your self-confidence. You see, believe it or not, somebody's self-image or their self-confidence can really hold them back. If you don't believe you can do something, or you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to step out and do it. And if you can change that and change the image you hold of yourself, then you can become whoever you want to be. It's just a matter of changing that thought pattern. One of the things you need to do is to make a decision. You see, just making that decision changes your whole vibration. Once you make a decision that you're going to do something, the ideas, the people, the resources will come to you every single time. But you have to make a decision. Most people waffle around on it. They don't know how to make a decision. Napoleon Hill talks about in his book that successful people, his book, Think and Grow Rich, the successful people make decisions very quickly and change them very slowly, if they change them at all. Whereas failures go back and forth and don't make decisions and change things quickly. And they never see the long picture. It's kind of like investing. They never wait for the long picture. If something goes wrong, they pull their money out. You have to look at the big picture, and you have to have belief in who you are and in your abilities. And, you know, we have so many hidden talents inside of us that we have not tapped into. We don't know what we're capable of doing. Nobody knows what you're capable of doing. You've got so much talent. And all you need is for a way to discover that talent. creating wealth. You can do anything. And that's what wealth is for. Sometimes people get really upset about, I have a group, and my group is millionaire mindset. Well, you have to have a millionaire mindset if you're going to be a millionaire. You'll never be a millionaire if you have a mindset of somebody making $1,000. It's just not going to happen. You have to change your thought pattern. People that are multimillionaires do not think like somebody who makes $50,000 a year. It just doesn't happen. Bob Proctor used to talk about one of the first things he would do is to ask people how much money they made. He didn't care how much money they made. He wanted to see where their thinking was, because he knew that somebody making $50,000 doesn't think like somebody making 500,000 or 5 million or 5 billion. Their thought process is different. I read an article one time about Bill Gates, when Melinda and Bill were married, and Melinda Gates was asked something about, what Bill Gates and what he was doing. And she says, you don't understand, he thinks differently. You see, people who make a lot of money are very creative thinkers, and they think differently. They think differently about money. They think differently about wealth. They think differently about everything, which is why they are where they're at. Which is what becomes really irritating when people try to pull those people down who are highly successful, because they just think differently. And that's why, even if you took every millionaire, billionaire in the world, and you made everybody equal income, pretty soon those people are going to rise to the top again, because they're thinking differently. Their thought patterns are different. What kind of thought pattern do you want to have? Do you want to have a thought pattern of somebody making $10,000 a year or somebody making $1 million? I'd rather have the thought pattern of a millionaire. So you have to start thinking differently. And wealth is there for you to do good with. It's for you to help people. So my question is, why are so many brilliant people stuck and get the same results all the time? It's their thinking. That's all it is. It's all comes down to your thinking. Brilliant people, just because you're brilliant doesn't mean that your thinking's right. It just means your brain's really smart and you can figure out things, but they don't always figure out why they're stuck. See, brilliant people, all people really, live on autopilot. And your thinking, your paradigms, your habitual thought patterns all go on autopilot. And you have to make a decision to change that autopilot, or you'll continue getting the same results. Why can't people change? Is because they're not aware of how to change. See, that's what your inside power and what this program is about, is how to help you to change. This is what I work with clients all the time, how to change their thinking so that they start doing the things that they need to do. So for instance, I had this one client, and I'll never forget. They were not making a lot of money, very little money, if any, at this point, was going into their own pocket. They were paying their employees. They were, doing the things they had to do. And it came down to needing a truck for their business. And the husband in the group, he wanted to get the truck that he felt was necessary. And the wife, who was really the owner of the business, said, well, I don't think we can afford that. And so she was trying to find a used truck, maybe a beat up truck, something like that. And I remember looking at them and I said, what kind of image do you want to have of your business? Do you want to have an image of a successful business, or do you want to have an image of a business that's struggling? Well, of course they wanted a successful business. So in the end, they bought this new truck, had decals put on the side. I mean, it was beautiful. Well, from buying that one truck, they ended up buying multiple vehicles and putting their logo on, and their business just skyrocketed. It wasn't about the money for the truck. It was about the thought process and what image did they want to have of their business? What image do you want to have of what you're doing? You see, are you looking at who you think you are, or are you looking at who you want to be? And we have to start looking at the image that we want to hold of ourselves. So in his article called The Common Denominator of Success, it talks about what successful people do and the difference between successful and unsuccessful. I don't like to call people failures, but people that are not so successful. And in this article, it says that successful people do what unsuccessful people will not do. And it's not that they like doing it. They're looking for a result. Are you willing to do what it takes in order to get that result? Most people are able, they may not be willing. You see, you have to break some of these bad habits.
Is there something else I can't help with?
You have to break some of these bad habits in order to get to the good habits.
I found this on the web.
So that's what you really need to be working on. What is it that you can do to get to the result that you want? So just like a construction zone, they're trying to look for improvement. They're trying to improve. Maybe there's potholes in the road. And so you have this construction zone. You too have to go through a construction zone and you have to improve yourself. It's not good enough just to go through life expecting something different and yet doing nothing different yourself. You have to improve you if you're going to improve your results. And we have to be aware of the various detours that exist and the detours that can stop us and get in our way. And keep in mind, we're not going to change unless there's a good reason, which is why you have to have a goal that inspires you. Because if it's just a goal that you know you can achieve or one that you think you can achieve, you're not going to try very hard to change. And you're not going to want to change. It's not going to be worth it. Why would you change to have the same thing you have now? It's uncomfortable to change, right? So unless you have something that inspires you, you're probably not going to change. And then you have to realize that for a time, you may have to sacrifice some things. You see, anything worth having is worth working towards. Anything worth having is worth working towards. So what is it that you want? And you see, this is what I help clients with all the time. I help them to make the changes and to be comfortable doing it. You see, when you understand what's happening inside your mind and why things aren't changing, then you can make the shifts that you need. It's all about awareness. And when you can learn to focus on the goal at hand and where you're headed, then things will start to come together. So if that makes sense, and if you need any help with that, by all means, connect with me on Facebook, connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out. I have a link here in the show notes, and you can go to that and schedule time and let's talk, because I believe that we all are capable of doing something more. And what I help people do is to start to see that big picture and help them figure out what is it they want, what is it that you're willing to do in order to change who you are and become that person. You see, it's not who you are that holds you back, it's who you think you're not. So I want you to become that person that you think you're not and change your world. And when you do that, every time, so different times I'll be working on something and I'll see that I've made some success, and it makes you feel different. And you see it shifting your vibration. When you're feeling good, when there's, that, this is a good day, I'm having a really great day, things are going well, you feel that shift inside of you. And when you feel that shift, every little time you feel that shift, you're moving up on that scale of vibration. And that's a good thing. When you have a bad day and you're just feeling down in the dumps, if you stay there too long, you're going to feel like you're going right back. And that's not where you want to be. You want to be on that vibration that's moving you forward, giving you momentum towards your goal. So I help people to clarify what their goal is and to really find a goal that inspires them. And then I help them along the way, kind of like hold their hand and move them towards that goal. And part of that movement towards that goal is becoming somebody you think you're not. It's inside of you to become that person. You can become whomever you want to be. Sometimes it's really hard to be the star of the show. In fact, for women, I think it's very hard because we're always, part of our paradigm that's been going on for generations and generations is taking care of others. And we think that we have to sacrifice in order to take care of others. And that's kind of, that was a paradigm I had anyhow, that it was my job to take care of my kids and make sure that they, were what they got what they needed. And that's fine. I enjoyed that. But at the same time, I kept putting myself in the back burner. Like what I wanted wasn't important. What they wanted was important. And I do think that that is a necessary thing. If you're going to decide to be a parent, you need to think about what your kids need. That doesn't mean you have to sacrifice yourself. So I help people to discover who they want to be and make those two go at the same time. You can still be a parent or a wife and still find your own path. But you have to have that confidence inside of you. So I help people to get that confidence. And then I help you to realize, just like that couple I was talking about, they had to get a truck. Well, let's get one that's in the image of what you want. Sometimes you have to step out in faith and play on that bigger stage. And you have to become that person, maybe before it shows up in your bank account. And that's okay. Because here's the thing. You have to become somebody different first. That is just the laws of the universe. You have to transform first before you're going to see it in your reality. So you have to create it first in your mind before you're going to see it, just like an inventor. An inventor doesn't all of a sudden think of something and there it is. Thomas Edison, when he decided to build a light bulb, he had to think about it first. And he experimented 10,000 times, we hear. But he had to keep creating something until it happened. He didn't get discouraged and say there's no way. He knew there was a way, because he knew if he could see in his mind this idea, he could produce it. And that's what any inventor does. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. It comes with experiment. And one of the things he would do would be to just take a little cat nap, just kind of rest his eyes. And they said he'd put like a stone in his hand. And so if he fell asleep, then it would drop and it would wake him up. But he would take that time to visualize what it is he wants. That's what you need to do. Visualize what it is that you want and maybe who you become along the way. So I help people do that. But in order to do that, you have to be willing to play on a bigger stage. You have to be willing to take some risk. You're going to have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. You can't stay in a comfort zone and expect progress. You have to be willing to take a step out. So again, reach out to me and love to have a chat with you and see how I can help you. And perhaps maybe even would like to come and join and work with me. And, I can help and guide you along the way as to who you want to be. So that, like this quote is, it's not who you are that holds you back, not who you are today. So you think you're not, and you become that person that you think you're not. And with that, I want you to have a great day.